clips there.
Oh, okay. So there's like 5 instead of 3 clips. All right.
Yeah, there it is.
All right.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is episode number 51. We broke 50 last week. That was great. Of the Weekly Ward. I'm Dan Ward, and special guest this week we have Mr. Edward Wynn.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on?
Happy to be on.
Unfortunately, Kevin couldn't be here with us because he's doing his due diligence to try to get ready for the Players Championship, which we're going to get into a little bit. As per normal with the show, we have a list of topics that are right on the side here in the left bar or on my right shoulder, and we're going to get into a few things and talk about the Grand Prix, Milwaukee. I know you were there. You loved it, every minute of it.
Right.
We'll get into the Players' Championship and kind of break down for those of you that maybe aren't as keen with how that tournament works. And we're going to get into a little segment with the predictions and kind of like a end-of-the-year
Special.
Yeah, kind of special segment where we're talking about a couple things that happened this year, a couple things that we expect, and some called shots for 2017. Yeah, let's get right into the Grand Prix. So, boom! I'm blocking the winners. I always block the winner. That's great. I can move over. There you go, Stephen Carter.
I probably shouldn't block right. All right.
You're good. So, this is Grand Prix Milwaukee. You were there. I was not. I was battling at an RPTQ where I did not accomplish my goal of getting a ticket from the Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory to get invited to Dublin. So what was your experience from the Grand Prix?
It was terrible.
Okay.
Like, have never been to Wisconsin before, I will never go back.
Okay.
At least willingly. I don't know how your experience was at Pro Tour Milwaukee.
Listen to all the P9 guys are just like, "Ugh."
Yeah, I'm probably getting a lot of flack for this. Cheese curds, overrated.
What? You're crazy.
The
You're
weather
crazy.
was miserable. It literally snowed from Saturday until we left.
I heard about the weather,
Yeah, so a lot of people had delayed connections leaving Milwaukee, going into anywhere in the Midwest. So I had some buddies that flew to Chicago from Milwaukee, and then their flight was so slow that they missed their connection out of Chicago. I'm sure that's a first-time problem for all of us.
You do realize that, like, that was the Pro Tour that I played Woodland Wander.
Right.
And so, like, that'll always have a warm place and a cold place, I guess, in my heart.
It's even thematic.
And and I can attest, though, and agree with you that Milwaukee and Madison are not the greatest cities in America.
Right.
And besides, if my deck wasn't so sweet for that Pro Tour, I probably would not remember it.
Yeah. It was cold. We walked outside, and it was like 20 degrees. I don't think I ever got above like freezing the entire weekend.
Sure.
Being from Portland, anything below like 40 is kind of foreign to me. So I guess living in New York, I'm slowly becoming accustomed to it, but I still think it's really cold.
For those of you that, don't know or haven't been to Milwaukee, it's pretty cold.
It's pretty cold.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, so let's get right into the Grand Prix. We have the top 8 right here. Congratulations to all of these individuals. I know a ton of them.
Yep.
East West Bowl had 4 slots, which was really, I'm not surprised because those guys are just so good at limited. They focus a lot. I've known a ton of them, or I've known them for a long time, and I'm referring to Eric Severson, Brandon Fisher, Benjamin Whites, and Ari Lax, and I've known Corey Burkhart for quite a while as well. He's just on a heater right now. He came in 9th and top 8 of the Grand Prix before that. He is just killing it.
Yeah, I think he said I think on Twitter he said something like his last finishes at the Grand Prix have been 2nd, 9th, and then 8th here. So
sick.
Seems pretty good.
And Evan also top 8 at a Grand Prix this year as well. So, and the 6th place finisher, Tahashi, he's no slouch himself.
Right.
The only person I didn't know is the person that won it.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Him, so
Stephen Carter. Congrats to him.
Yeah.
Milwaukee was, of course, Caldesh.
Right. Kind of our farewell to Caldesh Limited, as it were. So.
Yeah, we are going to be seeing some Caldesh Limited in San Jose coming up the 3rd week in January.
That will be with Aether Revolt, though.
Sure,
so.
but yeah, we'll still have some Caldesh.
Yep.
We're getting spammed in there. Delicious waffles. What's going on?
How's it going?
Cat facts are gas. Hey, Edward, what's going on? And yes, Corey is fuego. Like, he's just on such a heater. I'm so happy for him. He's on Team Channel Fireball now.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I thought he was working with the P9 guys, and then he had his article published, and I saw something on his Twitter referring to that. So that's really awesome. This was kind of a small Grand Prix. It was less than 900 players, right?
Yeah, I think just the whole perfect storm, no pun intended, of December, end of the year. People are probably getting a little tired of Calabash Limited at this point. I think all that together.
There was a Grand Prix in Las Vegas this weekend too. P and Chandra Delar, Eric Froelich was, congratulations, is now married.
Oh, okay.
So that took a lot of Magic players. People don't think about that, but there was a lot of people that were just, on Twitter, and Eric is he's a viewer. He comes on every once in a while, says hi.
Sure.
And so congrats to you, Eric, and your newly wife. Like, fantastic. I'm just really happy for him in general, and like a lot of people were just like tweeting it out as Grand Prix Vegas was great, and
sure,
and all that, which took away from it. But also, like, it's the end of the year, it's limited, it's the RPTQ, weekend, so there was a lot of people playing at those and the online RPTQ. Which, congratulations, Cody. Cody got there.
Right.
A couple of my other buddies got there as well through the RPTQs.
Yeah, definitely an exciting weekend for lots of our friends. So definitely people getting there.
So I don't really want to spend too much time on this. I definitely think that this goes to show that this top 8, a lot of people limited, especially now with the power level of the cards going up. They're like, oh, well, if you open a really good sealed pool, like, you're so far ahead. And I'm not saying that's not true, but I mean, this goes to show you that, like, if you have the skill, and I know I can speak firsthand of 5 of the top 8 that are just really phenomenal limited players. And it's just like, Matt Severo was 9-0. And like, he's won 3 Grand Prix this year, and 2 out of the 3 were limited.
Right.
And like, with 9-0, yeah, he could have had like 2 flagships or something like that.
Sure.
But like, it just goes to show his pool probably wasn't insane.
Right.
But he's just so that far ahead on limited that it just gets there.
Yeah, I think if I remember, I think Eric was 7-2 at the end of day 1, so he actually had to go 3-0-3-0 in his draft pods to make top 8.
Yeah.
So, and you can definitely see like he's very, very familiar with the format. So it definitely paid off for him there.
The thing about Eric too, and I guess this goes with most of them. Eric does not show any emotion.
Right.
Like, he just does his thing and then plays. Like, I think like Ari and Corey, out of the 5 that I know, like pretty well, like they show a little bit more emotions. But Eric is just like, yeah, I'm gonna 3-0 this and I'm gonna do it, and
Stone
that's what's gonna happen, and then he just does it. So
right.
And good to see Brandon Fisher too. Like, he finals Grand Prix Costa Rica.
Okay.
With his sweet white-green tokens list that was running Chandra's.
And Arlen Cord.
And Arlen Cord and Jamoka and stuff like that.
Right.
So, and I know him as well as being a really good limited player. So, not too many surprises here. Shout out. All right, J-Star, getting a little shout out to Richter Shade. All right. And Eddie, I would play Mardu Vehicles because I think Blue-White Flash is intolerable. So that's what I would choose if we were talking about just a straight, like, one or the other to get in there. All right. Was there anything that happened this weekend that you noticed? Because you didn't play the Grand Prix. Nope. You were working, but was there anything else that, like, there was, like, anything notable to talk about?
The casino is sweet.
Okay.
It's not too far away.
Listen up, kids at home. Listen up.
Yeah, it's literally around the corner from the Wisconsin Center.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were a little degenerate Sunday night. After we packed up for the Grand Prix, we stayed at the casino until our flights left at like 5 in the morning.
Right on.
So
okay.
That was an eventful night.
You got it, Eddie.
Yep.
All right.
I'm happy to leave it at that.
All right. So with that being said, just want to do a quick rundown. We're going to talk a little bit about the RPTQ system, I guess. It's not on here. We'll talk about it before we get into the Players Championship. I participated one in Milford, and TJ Collectibles held it. Like I said, it didn't work out for me. I played was a 56-player tournament, and there was one player in the room playing my worst matchup. I, of course, played them round 1. And then I had a sticky situation happen round 3, where I was playing against a Suicide Blue deck, and I'm playing my Thopter Prison deck. I kind of wanted to bring this up to get some perspective on it. and I pretty much have my opponent locked out, a soft locked out with ensnaring bridge welding jar, and I have a gluttonous crane, which doesn't really matter right now. So if you can visualize, I have one card in hand, it's an ensnaring bridge, and my opponent has 2 young pyromancers and some tokens, and I'm at like 6 life. I draw a land for the turn. I go to play ensnaring bridge. I look at my opponent to make sure it resolves. He goes, okay. I then go to play the land, and he goes, no, it didn't resolve yet. I just said okay. So at this point, then we call a judge, and the judge comes over and says, if you haven't pre-established a shortcut, then okay is not a resolution. And so then my opponent spell pierces it. I then play my land. He untaps, manamorphoses into Ancient Grudge, kills both of my things, and kills me. So that was like a super feel bad for me because I knew it was where my opponent was definitely saying okay to it resolving, realized that he shouldn't have said okay to it resolving.
Right.
And there was nothing I can do. So it was kind of a bad experience for me for the RPTQ. And, I drove 3 hours one way.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, play the only person playing your worst matchup, then win a round, then lose that way. Was like, semi-tilting. Yeah,
I think like at higher competitive RELs, competitive, professional, etc. I think communication is key. While I do sympathize with you, I'm inclined to say that a little bit more communication would have been clearer. Like I feel like did you was the spell pierce on your radar at all or some sort of permission?
Yeah, of course, but that's why I looked at him. I played Ensnaring Bridge and I said like this and he said okay.
Right.
And I said okay and I played my land and then I think I'm not saying that my opponent tried to get over on me.
Right.
But I believe that after I went to play my land there was information that was revealed and by him saying okay, for me this was like now he has information, but there's a time window where he can back up because okay is that. And just it was really... I just look at it as the player I played against was within their rights technically.
Right.
But I knew that he knew he messed up.
Right.
And it was one of those that you should just take that one. If it's me and I do that, there's nothing to be gained. There's no knowledge. There's knowledge to be gained by me playing the land because... For all I know, for all he knows, I could have something else that he wants to spell pierce the following turn.
Right.
But now that he knows that, I have no cards in hand and, this is this, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, so. I think the biggest problem is the term, okay there. What does that mean? I kind of had a similar situation when I was playing in Grand Prix Columbus earlier this year.
Sure.
It was late in day one. It was later in day one. It was game 2. It was post board. I was looking pretty rough. I don't think I was going to win anyway, so that's why I didn't bring it up to my opponent. But the situation that came up was we had actions on upkeep.
Sure. And
it came down to I played a spell. He force-willed it. I dazed it, and he said, okay. There's some thought. The stack was going pretty deep. It was a complex board, so there were a lot of things going on. I returned an island to my hand to pay for daze, and then I said, daze your spell. He kind of thought about a while, and he's like, okay. And then I put the daze in my graveyard, and then the stack continued to resolve, and I said, okay, so daze counters your force will. He's trying to force will one of my spells, right, upkeep or whatever. And then he basically tried to back up and said, oh, I was gonna pay 1. I was like, you said okay, and he said, I said okay to you playing daze and returning the island to your hand. I said, okay, what bearing does that have? That's a cost. There's no response to returning island to my hand.
Sure.
So and I would
that means it's a resolution of the spell.
I would kind of assume that if you said okay and then the daze goes to my graveyard and you didn't pay 1, then the daze countered your spell.
Yeah, sure.
So, but I wasn't gonna get into it. I think that might have been a breakdown of communication. So I think the lesson that people can kind of take away from both of these stories, we're kind of in a similar boat, is if you suspect they're playing blue, you basically want to make it very clear: does this resolve?
Sure.
Yeah,
and I don't know. This is a story that it happens. I'm sure there's a lot of players. I'm sure there's a lot of viewers. That this has happened to before.
Right.
And like you said, it is within playing the game correctly. You should ask if this spell resolves. However, I think that there should be a statement from Wizards, and they should come up with a better way to determine whether okay means okay this resolves or not.
Right.
Because in this circumstance, the policy dictates that they can back up and say no, they can go ahead and counter it. However, in this circumstance specifically, the judge should be able to rule with an asterisk there because there was information gained for one.
Right.
And two, that like it was clear that my opponent, if he wanted to counter it, it wasn't like I was tapped out at this point before I played my land. It wasn't like I had other mana to be like going over decisions. I only had one other card.
Right.
And we're in a modern format where there's no cards you can cast for 0 mana, theoretically, besides like Simian Spirit Guide, which is a mana source.
Right.
So you're not playing like Daze and Force of Will. And so like what was he actually saying by saying okay?
Right.
Like there's no other explanation, and this is why like I was a little upset because I was like, there's no other thing that can happen here besides you saying okay because it resolves.
Yeah.
And when in the entire match someone has said okay to every spell that I played resolving, to me it's just like okay, all right.
Yeah. I think like the Delicious Waffles kind of has the right idea here, saying okay is like one of those acceptable shortcuts. The correct phrasing probably should be I pass priority. But the problem is if you were saying I pass priority every time, I feel like you're giving away.
It's a tournament shortcut. You're giving away information. Like at that point, is it like, do you say untap, upkeep, draw? Does this spell resolve? I'm moving from main phase 1.
Right.
I am going into the beginning of my combat.
Right.
Like there's just like all these are like in place tournament shortcuts that were just like okay and move. And yes, there's people that okay does mean hold on 1 second. Like okay, you're casting that spell. But if you're going to say that, I think as a player, a Magic player, you should be saying I'm thinking about this. Okay.
Right.
Or
like,
okay, and if you find yourself saying okay, like okay, I'm thinking about this.
Right. Or okay,
not just
like okay, I pass priority. Yeah.
Okay, and look at you. Like this gets into the Thoughtseize thing that happened earlier this year with myself. Mm-hmm. Like if I cast Thoughtseize and look at my opponent, and then they reveal their hand, and I go, no, wait a minute, I wanted to target me.
Right.
Like that's really messed up. So,
yeah.
Am I? What's going on? 2-1 with that Oath deck. Great, we got our tickets back. Nice. So I just wanted to give a little perspective from my RPTQ. A little rough, but I do think the RPTQ system is great. I love the old PTQ system, but I think the fact that like the RPTQs, they do bring kind of like more of a condensed tournament of like the upper echelon of grinders is very good. You can choose between where you want to play. Like, I know certain people flew out to Utah from New York. Like, Michael Flores flew out to Utah.
Right.
Certain people decided, hey, I don't want to do that. I just want to play online. And I think having that, spread out options is really good. Because, especially with a format like Modern where there's just so many decks all over the place, it's like crazy. Like, the decks that were there was like, out of the 56 decks, there was like 11 burn decks, which is like crazy to me. But I do like the RPTQ system. I am very happy that I'm silver and I get to play at them and I didn't have to qualify through the PPTQs, even though I'm kind of sad because I like playing the PPTQs. I think like playing more Magic is good, and I wish I could do that a little bit more.
So I definitely did not kind of devolve this because since we have a few more things to get to, I'll just kind of wrap it up. I had some pretty serious discussions about people on Twitter kind of pooled the masses as it were. And I think where I stand is I enjoy the idea of the RPTQ system. I think like the smaller tournament logistically is much easier to run. You can have a higher concentration of judges. It's a better experience for players since you're not playing all day.
Sure.
The only problem is I think the PPTQ system is particularly miserable to try and get to the RPTQ system. Like you kind of circumvented by being silver, like you said. But the problem with the PPTQ systems is someone had best said it by it's a catch-22, right? There's no reasonable set of tournament structure, prizes, logistics that can be made that will make people happy. Because from my perspective, if the PPTQ is if there's all prize support, like we've had 5Ks like that we've ran this year as our PPTQs, that's great. There's great prize support, right? But you're paying higher than usual entry fee. Like I think we ran it at like $30 or $40 or something, right? So, right, because you want people to think that this is worth it, right? There's a good payout at the end of the tunnel.
Sure.
The problem is at the end of the tunnel for players like myself, and I'm sure for a non-zero number of grinders out there, the tunnel, the only thing that matters is the invite to the RPTQ. I could care less about prizes, right? Like, getting more product doesn't matter to me.
Sure, and to emphasize on your point, I had 2 losses in the tournament, and I just got in my car and drove home when I could have been playing for top 16.
Right.
Which was additional prize support.
Right, a fair amount of packs at the top 16, the playmat, etc. So,
yeah.
Right, but like for a lot of grinders, like really all they care about is the invite to the RPTQ, the invite to the Pro Tour, etc.
Yeah.
Like getting more packs doesn't really matter, so it's a little rough to play in the PPTQs.
Yeah.
and that's not even talking about the PPTQs where the prize support was just completely abysmal.
Yeah.
Like a store running the first PPTQ or whatever. Like I understand stores have to make money, but it's becoming so hard and just feels like the PPTQ system, it's kind of a miserable experience of playing them. So
Sure, especially from, like you said, a grinder's perspective. You get to the top 8, and, not to throw a shot out here at VD, but, like, look at VD now. Our buddy VD Wajaya is just, like, a consummate pro in every sense of the word, is a great Magic player.
Right.
And, like, he is top 8'd now, like, for
half
the last 4
yeah.
or something, and has lost in the first round.
Right.
And it's, like, so crazy. Like,
Right.
So crazy. All right.
Anyways, moving on. Enough of bad beats. Like we don't want to play up the year with bad beats. That's a bad omen. So.
All right. So moving on. I wanted to brush up on it. Kevin's not here, but we wanted to do our best to go over this tournament for people that not necessarily are familiar with this tournament, and that being the Players Championship.
Yep.
This is the last year unless Kevin wins it, and they just are forced to do it next year because Daddy wins the championship.
Right.
Will be the last year they're doing this, and it came, down with a lot of the other changes that Star City had made this year. And so, yeah, we'll just get right into it. So the SCG Players Championship is a culmination of the tour, of the SCG Tour,
Yep.
and its finest components.
Yep.
The breakdown for players, we'll get down to in a little bit. Just to go over, though, it is SCG's version of the Pro Tour, or Worlds, kind of more like World Championships.
Yep.
We got $50,000 prize pool. We're not talking chump change here. Winners getting $20K.
Yep.
And all the way down to, hey, you just show up for the tournament, here's $500.
Yep.
So, not bad. How to qualify. Could you read this out?
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to how the Worlds works regarding the Pro Tour. So the Invitational Champions, kind of similar. The Pro Tour Champions get the invite. The Invitational Champions get the invite here. The Reign Champion gets to run it back. So Jim Davis, he had that slot from last year.
Yep.
Gets to run it back, try and defend. And then with the way the seasons kind of break down, they have the point leaders within each season, which you accumulate by playing at the Invitationals, the Opens. Obviously, the Invitational is a little bit harder. You get a bigger chunk of points.
Yep.
But a lot of grinders have made their way up through just playing in each individual seasons, having good, solid runs throughout them.
Yep. So we're talking Max McVitie, we're talking Liam Lonigan, and we're talking Jacob Bow.
Yep.
So those are there. We
Yep.
got the reigning champ, Jim Davis.
Yep.
And we can go through the leaderboard, but the 12 players here are for each season, and then I guess the three at the three that fall down the tiers, the players of the year on the leaderboard. So I could just sit here and read off this, but we're talking Jeff Hooglin, just a couple of them, Todd Stevens, Joe Lissette, big names like Jerry Thompson, Todd Anderson, Tom Ross, like we're gonna have a bunch of people in there.
Yep. So very exciting to watch. Obviously, all these players have definitely made a name for themselves.
Yeah.
I think really the only I guess true dark horses in there would be the Invitational Champions themselves. Awkwardly enough, like Liam Lonergan and Max McVie. I'm sure they're great players. But we haven't really seen the exposure.
Yeah, but you're talking like Brad Nelson is going to be in this tournament.
Right. There are some very named players in this tournament, so no slouches there. Obviously, to win an Invitational, that's definitely I'm sure they're not slouches either. Max McVie had one or two deep GP finishes, top 8s earlier this year, I believe.
Yeah, he top 8'd in one Grand Prix.
Yep.
And he had a couple deep finishes, I agree.
Yep.
So NASCAR Father, don't worry. If you miss anything, you can rewatch on YouTube, or it'll be on our site.
Dan will be happy to share his bad beats later.
Yeah, we
just
can
kidding.
definitely run it. And KJ. That's true. All right, so we talked about how they got here. Now let's talk about what we're going to do. Day 1 group stage. So we're talking group play. These groups are going to be randomly put into a computer system and shot out.
Yep.
So the only players that know they're not going to be in the same group are, in fact, the Invitational Champs.
Yep.
And the Players Champ.
Yep.
So we're going to see some interesting pairings. I always like to see these groups because sometimes you get the real stacked groups.
Right. It always makes for a fun fantasy draft type thing to kind of see how they play out and making your brackets or whatnot.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because no matter how the computer randomly pairs it, there's always seems to be one pod that's the death pod.
Yeah, the group of death.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere.
And sometimes it even happens when a small tournament like this, people are working together. You'll see 3 or 4 people have the same deck.
Right.
For Legacy, we probably won't see that. But for Standard, for example, that may happen.
Yeah.
4 groups. The round robins, we're going to be getting into Legacies, and after 3 rounds, the first place will move on, and then everyone else is going to be into the battle for the buys and play to stay.
Yep.
I love how they have their coined phrases for these things. It
Right.
makes it kind of easy because it's like, oh, battle for the buys. What are you playing for? The
Right,
buys.
right.
Play to stay. Well, if you lose, you're probably not here any longer.
Right.
So after the Legacy group play, we're going to move down. And this is where we're talking about the battle for the buy starts to go into effect here for the grudge match. And you can see the breakdown right here. And
Kind of how it splits down the
yeah,
middle.
it'll correlate with battle for the buys to play to stay.
Yeah.
So after Legacy, the people that did really well will be over here in the battle for the buys. The other people that are, knocking on heaven's door are going to be over here and play to stay.
Yep.
So I believe after, if I read correctly, after the first day, everyone will still be in.
Yep.
After the Legacy play, then this will happen. And then after day 2, I believe 4 will drop off. And the rest will be playing to stay.
It's a
Everybody in the play.
ridiculously complicated tournament structure.
Yeah.
Like, probably a little bit more so than it needs to be, but I think that's part of the fun, part of the novelty that Star City is like trying to push on the viewers.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot going on. They will definitely explain it in much more eloquent terms than Dan or myself, but there's definitely a lot to watch, lots of magic.
Yeah, this is going to be great. You're going to see Magic at its finest. And, I give Kevin a lot of flack as far as SCG versus Grand Prix. But I believe this field is better than last year's field.
Yep.
And I do believe that this is going to be something that I really hope they do bring back next year. I think it is like I said, a culmination of a long Star City season.
Yep.
And it rewards the players for sticking to the brand and as well as just showing that they have a proficiency in the game.
Right.
Obviously spiking an invitational. Hey, I showed up this tournament and I had the greatest idea. But someone that just won the last invitational who, by the way, I may or may not have called shots. Jacob Baugh, thanks for backing me up. He would have been in anyway because of his on the leaderboard points.
Right.
So, how come you don't play? Well, okay, so the main reason I don't play in them is because they're happening the same weekends as Grand Prix. However, when they are close, and most of them are close, I guess, East Coast, and there's nothing going on like a Grand Prix, I definitely will play in them.
Right.
So I just don't get to play a lot because they always, correlate with the Grand Prix circuit.
It's just very hard to find weekends off. So
Yeah.
obviously, we generally prioritize the Grand Prix.
I have played invitationals over Grand Prix.
Yep.
So I've done that a couple times before
Yep.
to some success. So, but yeah, to kind of put a bow on this, it's definitely something to look forward to. There's not going to be any other tournaments going on this weekend.
Yep.
And so for someone, if you love Legacy, you don't get to see Legacy at its highest level a lot. So this will be great for that, see what people brought to the table. And also just the storylines of people that are playing certain decks, I'll call Kevin out here. He's a Grixis Delver player in Modern, right?
Yep.
But you're going to see people playing all kinds of random decks just like at Worlds that they wouldn't normally play, but because it's a 16-man field.
Right.
And they know that certain people are going to show up with decks. Like, for one, Kevin and Jim, Kevin kind of has a target on its back just because he's had some success, like a lot of recent success. Jim also qualified for the RPTQ, Jim Davis, through Grixis Delver. And, there was other people playing it at this RPTQ, so people know it's a known quantity now. And so, if you show up to this tournament, you need to have, because 2 out of the 16 players in Modern
Right.
are going to play this deck, you need to have some kind of game plan.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's always kind of fun because the way these tournaments tend to work, they're a little bit more inbred. Lots of teams that kind of work together. You
Sure.
see at Worlds where people kind of broke off into 3-4 player teams that worked with
Yeah.
a little bit with each other and then kind of back home with other contacts or whatever. But you generally have people kind of come to the same conclusions
Yeah.
because everyone's just trying to next level each other.
Yeah, and there's
So-
3 of the metagame gurus are in there. So, those guys, I'm sure they're going to be working, hand to hand with us.
Yep.
Yeah, Eddie, I will be in Vancouver, so you will see me there. I'll be putting people in prison. It's going to be great. I can't wait.
All right.
All right. So that was a little rundown on the Players Championship. Let's head back over to our website, which if you need anything for your gaming needs, hit us up, kerwinsgamestore.com. Boom! We're doing a little plug here. We got all of our content, whether you're looking for, previous episodes of the Weekly Ward, written content. Josh just did an article on why he likes Legacy, but we have everything on there. We keep it up to date and current. And pretty easily accessible to go to any of our previously recorded things we have on here. Events page, hit it up, and just singles and product, whatever you need, we got.
51 episodes just while we're here. Just
Yeah, that's
But-
crazy.
yeah.
So I guess we're getting into 2017, but we couldn't really talk about that without touching base on 2016.
Yep.
So 51 episodes is crazy. I'm getting old. We capped at 1,000 followers this year.
Oh.
Like, we reached that goal, which was unbelievable. Which just makes me very thankful for, our viewership, our loyal viewers. I believe this year we raised upwards of like $700 in donations between the whole year, which allowed us to upgrade some of our equipment, which is really great.
Considering how I remember doing shows with you, I think back towards the end of the year, like single-digit episodes. This wasn't behind us. We had our little banner that was clipped up.
Yeah.
Way worse lighting. It was really dark. If you go back to some of our episodes, it was really dark in here because we had none of these lights that you guys can't see, but are.
I remember the first ever weekly ward. The first weekly ward this year was me with a headset.
Okay.
And it was me going over Black Red Dragons.
Okay.
So
that's a throwback.
Yeah, that is. I wish they were good again. I want them to be good again. So, thanks a lot. I appreciate that a lot, Wada.
Yeah.
And it just makes me, like I said, thankful again. I can't, say enough for our viewers, people that support the show.
Yep.
And we've gotten from, it being 10 to 20 viewers to, today we had to start a little late to do some, things that were kind of out of my hands at work here. But we've gotten, a good steady to 100 to 200 followers.
Yep.
And hopefully next year my goal is definitely going to be to have the subscribe button. So, NASCAR Father, you've been with us through it all, I know. Best was when Daddy joins. Yeah, Kevin's great.
Yeah,
so.
Kevin definitely adds a good personality, so...
But yeah, that's definitely a goal for the stream. I want to bring a couple more special guests. I remember when we had Thiago on here for when the Pay the Pros thing was going on.
Yep.
I guess looking back at some of like the memorable episodes of the year, Harlan when we had the Blastoise hat on and he just came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do a little bit better. We had Max Mitchell on here. He was really fantastic for one of the weeks.
Yep. Josh has been on a few times.
Yep.
Always fun to listen to him.
So, definitely is something that I want to definitely get going a little bit more. Cake by the Ocean. People didn't know about that. Tarek, I was actually going to play that as, our closing video. I may still. We'll see. But I got another video that I'm considering as well. All right, so let's talk about some predictions.
All right.
2017 predictions.
Yeah.
Now this can be just whatever. We'll start off with a couple magic ones,
all right,
and then we'll kind of get into it. So 2017 predictions. I am predicting that there will be a Players Championship for Star City Games.
You think they'll bring it back?
I think they will bring it back. I think what's going to happen is they're going to realize how much coverage this weekend gets, how important to their circuit it is, and that they can actually make the cost pretty minimal for what they get out of it, thus wanting to bring it back.
Okay. Yeah. It's a reasonable one.
Kevin's not here today. He's practicing for the Players Championship, unfortunately. But fortunately, we have Ed here.
All right. I will... What can I predict? Magic related. Mar Masters 2017, besides the obvious ones. Liliana reprint, Snapcaster reprint.
Liliana reprint?
Yep. I think that's pretty obvious.
Okay.
I think the hard one, I don't think Tarmogoyf or Vendil and Click will be reprinted.
Okay, so we're a little finance here, a little reprints.
Yep.
So you're saying, when is this going to come out? Is this going to be for Vegas?
No, I think they actually announced the Mar Masters date. I think it's going to be sometime in March. They had announced the date in one of their announcements.
It's kind of a misplay, I think. Why would they not do it during the Vegas one?
I don't know. I think they wanted to do something.
I just mean the Grand Prix is going to be sold out immediately. Mm-hmm. Best of the new Veraska coming. If in your dreams, Derek, he loves Veraska.
I mean, we saw some spoilers, so obviously, the spoilers got leaked. Anyone who follows kind of the internet on Twitter, I think someone inadvertently leaked some.
Yeah, somebody was fired from the Japanese contingent of Wizards,
right,
for leaking cards. So,
or it was a sealed product. It showed what the sealed packs look like, but. That might be a little further away than what we can anticipate. That's not until next fall.
Veraska. All right, 2017 prediction. Here's another one. Nicol Bolas will be playable in Standard.
Okay.
When he first came out, he was kind of laughed at.
Okay.
How are you going to cast this big thing? We had this card, Cruel Ultimatum, and that was barely playable. It was good when it was in.
Yeah.
But I mean, It was tough, and it's been a while since I've seen that card cast in Modern. It makes me like want to see that card cast.
Yeah, I mean, Cruel Ultimatum was not a card that caught on right away. So for those of you who aren't playing back in like 2007, I want to say it was kind of the era.
Sure.
I don't think people immediately caught on of the interaction between Vivid Lands plus Reflecting Pool.
Okay.
So that wasn't something that was like immediately apparent right away. And once people caught on, people just went crazier and crazier and crazier with the mana base. Like, we had decks that were playing Cruel Ultimatum. It was kind of like a Grixis type control deck. Cruel Ultimatum was the finisher. You started adding in different finishers. So Broodmate Dragon was a common finisher. That it was 3 BRG. It was a 4/4 flyer that would bring on a 4/4 flyer.
Yeah, Broodmate.
So, yep. That's definitely a throwback. Dragon, right up your alley.
Dragons! I love me some dragons.
Right, and then people started chaining things together. Like, you would start playing Cloud Thresher to combat fairies, which was 2 green
Yeah.
in a deck that was trying to play Cruel Ultimatum.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show how crazy the mana base were back then.
Yeah.
So, but Cruel Ultimatum itself, definitely a sweet one. I think a lot of people would be excited to see that one back. If a Nicol Bolas were to come back as well, and that was playable, I think that would definitely be pretty sweet to see in Standard.
Yeah. Legacy confirmed dead, 2018.
We got another one. Fetch lands into the next block. I'm going to say no.
Ooh. Yeah, I think they want to stay away from fetch lands the best they can. Especially now, they realize, like, there's so much like, in Standard, there's so much things you need to keep track of. And just, like, adding a shuffle mechanic
Just makes it
it's even more, like, just ridiculous.
Yep. Legacy confirmed dead for 2018?
No, I think it's still going to be simmering.
Yeah.
I'll take the next one, though, for 500, Alex. Frontier predictions for 2017. So...
Well, let's break this down. So some of our viewers might not know what Frontier is. So let's kind of give people...
Good, because they're not going to need to.
Okay. All right.
All right, so Frontier is like a newish Modern, which basically breaks the void from all of the busted cards in 8th edition that shouldn't be in Modern.
Yep.
And, it's like a newer format. I believe it's from what block? It's from...
It's literally the most modern card face. So
Sure.
It's from M15 onwards.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Yep.
M15 onward. So we're not talking to like Blood Moons and stuff like that.
Yep.
We're talking more of a fair Modern.
Yep.
And my prediction is that it is not going to be a thing.
Okay.
It is going to get some buzz like Tiny Leaders got.
Okay.
And then it's just going to fall by the wayside because unfortunately, I don't think their Wizards will push it. And if Wizards doesn't push it, not to say that they have to, but it takes a lot. That it has to be like really good for that to be pushed anywhere else. Because people will build decks, sure, and like play with their friends, but it's not going to be something where people are going to want to talk about a ton and be like, "Oh my god, this is so much fun! I want to do this." If they can't play the decks in tournaments, so that's kind of where I'm at with that.
So despite what people think, I think Frontier is actually slowly starting to catch on. It's one of those things where at first it was kind of one of those like super narrow things, like only people who are kind of in heard about it, and now I think it's really caught on. In Japan, most of the big chain stores, Big Magic, Haruya, they've definitely kind of adopted them, and they run almost weekly tournaments for them. Face-to-face games up in Montreal, I think they're hosting a big cash tournament on New Year's Eve for it.
Interesting.
I've definitely heard people having enough interest that a lot of game store owners have kind of been pushed towards, we can host a weekly tournament, like Wednesday Night Frontier or something, just to kind of see how it goes. So
Okay.
I think it's a little ways away from becoming a thing. But for those of you who don't remember, Modern actually originally started as what they called Overextended, which was kind of a non-rotating extended format that people kind of toyed around with before Gavin Verhey, one of the developers with Wizards, who kind of eventually pushed it into what the Modern format is now.
Okay.
So
Fair. 2017 predictions, huh?
Who's winning the Super Bowl this year?
This year?
Who's winning the
I
Super
would
Bowl?
love to say the Redskins, but
Okay.
if I'm going to be... I would say at this current juncture, because we both know Dallas Cowboys can't win anything. Shots fired. I would say I would pick, if I had to like actually bet money on... Oh, it's so tough. I think I would bet on the Patriots.
Okay.
but my heart wants to say the Raiders, but it's more of an underdog.
Okay.
So
okay.
I would bet the odds on if I got on Raiders, but straight up, I would take the Patriots.
Okay.
I just feel like they have a good. They've got a good line. NFC is record-wise not as good as AFC, but I believe the teams are better. If that makes sense.
Right.
Cowboys, gross.
Can we ban that gentleman from the chat, please?
Yeah, let's get Nightbot in there.
No, all things aside, I hate the Packers as well. Seattle got crushed in Wisconsin this past weekend. Completely obliterated.
They did because, it's just, you don't want to play there in December.
Yeah. It was so cold. It was snowing the entire time the game was
Creepy
on.
Magic Guy saying the Ravens, huh? All right.
Yeah.
Ravens got a shot.
Definitely some dark horses there, but I think it's hard to bet against the Patriots. It's
just you don't want to bet against Tom Brady.
Yeah.
It's just I've done it before. It's a bad idea. So.
As much as no one wants to see the Patriots win either, I think statistically they just put up the best numbers. Just consistency year in, year out.
Cowboys versus Patriots Super Bowl. I'm rooting for it. Oh my god.
I love it.
I would rather see a team that like Tampa Bay get in the Super Bowl more than Dallas.
Okay.
I just don't want to see Dallas or Seattle.
What's wrong with Seattle?
Seattle's just, come on.
Are you just doing this to grind my gears?
No, it's just Seattle's been there a couple times recently.
Yeah.
And let's get a new team in there.
Okay.
It's boring.
Well, I mean, if your Redskins were actually any good, then they might actually make it to the Super Bowl.
We got a few rings.
All right.
We got a few rings. And we are going to make the playoffs.
Okay.
And you better hope to God that you don't have to play us, because we will destroy you.
I mean, if it's, freezing weather, snowing, and borderline blizzard.
In Seattle, it will not be, because you guys will probably have a home game.
That's fair.
All right. 2017 prediction. This is a prediction that's a long one. Guess what, Cubs fans? You're going to wait another 100 years. Because they're not going to win the World Series. That is a Dan Ward mark it down block.
I think those people are good. They can tell their kids, they can keep their newspaper clippings 100 years. That's fine.
No, I'm not from DC. I was born and raised in Catskill, New York. Technically Jefferson Heights. And the Redskins are great. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
All right.
Cleveland all the way.
Oh man.
I hope you're a NBA fan, because that's the only Cleveland team that will have a shot this year.
Okay. You think the Cavs are going to be able to run it back?
Definitely not. I think
not?
they have a shot.
Okay.
I think they're the monster favorite in the East. So my prediction would be that the storybook ending will be Golden State making it to the finals and sweeping the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Oh, okay.
So if Cleveland makes it, I believe that Golden State, barring no injuries, they will win handily this time.
Okay.
It will be a 4-1 or a 4-0.
Okay.
Cleveland hasn't looked that great so far this year. They're still dominating the East, but the East is kind of weak. I'm a Bulls fan, and we're the third or fourth best team, but definitely we're losing to teams that we shouldn't. And besides Toronto, which isn't really that great, they're just better than the rest. Cleveland's just so far ahead on the East Coast. But if they were in the West Coast, they'd be the third best team. Mm-hmm. It's so weird.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but you really think Golden State can top their season that they had last year? Because they
I
had
don't
a
think
phenomenal.
I don't think they will top record-wise, but I don't think they need to.
Okay.
I think they've become more consistent, and with adding another weapon, you just saw, it's so hard. You have Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and then Klay Thompson just dropped 60 on you. Do you know he touched the ball? He took 11 dribbles. He scored 60 points. He didn't play the fourth quarter. Took 11 dribbles and had the ball in his hands for less than a minute.
That's
ridiculous.
That's a very impressive statistic.
Never been done before.
Right.
So, what is Barbecue the Daddy? That is our donation goal that we need to get going on here. If we reach that goal, Kevin Jones will be barbecued all over the stream, all over here. We'll get him in a plastic suit and get him some goggles. And he will have barbecue sauce all over.
What?
Yes.
Yeah. That's Barbecue the Daddy.
I see that. I didn't really know what that meant either, so... Okay.
2017 prediction from Andrea. you'd like to go to Pro Tour Amonkhet.
Nashville?
All right.
Pro Tour Nashville?
All
All right.
I would just simply be safe, Andre, and just say a Pro Tour. Because I'll get behind that. Like, now I like it. You're throwing out, like, this one I'm going to. Mm-hmm. So that leads me to believe you're going to be putting some work in, and I like that.
All right.
That's good. Let me know if you need any help, man, because I need to get qualified for that one, too.
Yeah, well, what's the...
Why do you give him a plastic suit? He needs something. Then again, just throw all his clothes in the laundry.
Yeah, I think if we're already trying to smother someone with barbecue sauce, why do they have some safeguard? It seems a little...
Sure.
It was either that or a green outfit. So we
Get on him, Andre. Get on him. All right, another 2017 prediction. What do you got for me? What about Wizards? Is there going to be anything from Wizards? We're getting on sports. I like that. We talk about some other ones. But, I mean, we just had this thing happen with Pay the Pros. You think there's anything this last year? You think there's anything going to come down the pipeline in regards to, like, Magic-oriented stuff?
I'm kind of curious to see how it goes. I think they kind of reevaluated their position on all that in back when they first announced it back in Madrid. That was when it whole started, and then they kind of pushed that back. They said they would reevaluate, look at it again in Sydney. So there were some changes to the top levels regarding Platinum itself. I feel like prediction on Bang. That's a good one. We can definitely bring that up.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably something simmering at the top that obviously is not open for us to talk about yet.
Sure.
Or they won't be revealed, but I imagine we'll hear something in Dublin, probably hear something in Amonkhet and Nashville in April or May or whatever. So there might be something down the line. I do expect a change. It's been one of those things they've always tweaked the numbers regarding pro points, regarding payouts. So
They make it harder and harder each year, it seems.
Sure.
So...
Oh, we got a row of questions now.
Okay.
So how about you? Predictions on bannings. Maybe you can
Okay, so first off, Pay the Pros is where they decided to make a statement saying that they weren't going to pay platinums and they were going to basically cut a lot of benefits, which they moved away from because they realized how much of an impact that had on people without actually, talking to them. Okay, predictions on bangs. We'll go down the line here. So I'm going to say the ones that I think should be banned,
Okay.
not what they're actually going to ban.
Okay.
So I believe in conjunction, Gitaxian Probe or Become Immense.
Okay.
One of those two cards should be banned.
Okay.
And then after that, I'm just like, that's pretty much it. Simian Spirit Guide should be banned. It should not be allowed to be played in Modern. It just allows for the most unbroken things like... I played turn 1 Blood Moon against one of my opponents at the RPTQ.
Okay. So.
Just think about that.
Yeah.
Most modern decks play like 3 basic lands. Like, it's just really, polarizing when that like card you can't play around it because you don't think about it. There's no other fast mana.
Right.
So those would be the two that I think. I think realistically, Simian Spirit Guide will stay, mainly due to the fact that no one that's played that card has, quote-unquote, broke it. Mm-hmm. And that's why they're kind of letting it linger and just wait. However, I do think that Become Immense or Gitaxian Probe need to go. I think they're just too good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think you're that far off. Obviously, Infect has kind of been in the upper echelons of Modern since its original inception, right? Back when people were playing... Turn 1, Igmoth Nexus. Turn 2, Animated, Blazing Shoal, pitched my Dragon Storm, Tenyu on turn 2. Obviously, we've gone a little bit more fair than that, but in fact, it's shown time and time again that it's still very consistent, very powerful, very streamlined, as it were.
Sure.
And Gitaxian Probe is one of the most egregious offenders because it's you pay 2 life. Am I clear to go? All right, I'm clear to go. Kill you.
Yeah.
So, and Become Immense has kind of led to not needing that many cards because you can really... Noble Hierarch plus 1 other effect plus Become Immense, you're hitting people for 8 out of nowhere, basically.
Yeah, a little RKO action.
Yep.
We got some Puzzle Knot talk in the chat here. Okay, Andrea, Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Goblin Lackey, I agree with you on this point. Like, if you're going to ban a card, just ban the Marvel.
Right.
You don't want to ban the Puzzle Knot because then if they have another thing that's broken, then guess what? The Marvel's the thing that's doing the broken things.
Yep.
However, I do agree with Andrea. I guess Cathartic Reunion is pretty busted in the Dredge deck, and that leads to some unfair advantage as well. Treasure Cruise and Dig. I haven't really thought about the Frontier format as much.
Yeah,
I know Andrea is big on that, and he's written an article for our website as well. And I don't think Puzzle Knot can go. I do think that there is a chance that Aetherworks Marvel does get banned.
Okay.
However, it would have to be dominating. Like the last I checked, it was 20% of the online meta, and it would have to be like 40% to, I think, even like get in the realm of getting banned in standard.
Right.
So, because like Black Green Delirium was like 40% at one point. What are we gonna ban? Like
Ishkanal,
Liliana,
right?
Like we're gonna ban Grim Flare,
right?
Like, come on.
Yeah. So, I think there's plenty. I think there's plenty playing standard. We had originally thought like, a few weeks going into the Madrid, Denver pair Grand Prix last week, people were originally looking at it like, oh, it's just kind of become Blue White Flash versus Black Green Delirium. But as I think the Grand Prix clearly showed that, some people identified the weakness in there. They were able to attack it with the Aetherworks Marvel deck, right? And then obviously Matt Severo was the odd one out. He was the only one who didn't win one of the 3 events that weekend with a Aetherworks deck. He won with Mario Vehicle. So there's still plenty in the format. I think it's open enough that that Marvel Works isn't really any more oppressive necessarily than the Blue White Flash, the Vehicles deck, or the Black Green Delirium decks.
Yeah, the thing is, like, Owen tweeted this out earlier yesterday, and he pretty much hit the nail on the head. He said, Standard's at a really bad time right now, and every single deck has Smuggler's Copter or Emrakul in it. Mm-hmm. And it just shows the lack of diversity. And, Andrea kind of hit the point here, putting a 13/13 Flying Mindslaver on turn 4 is modern territory. And I agree with you, but it's not consistent, and that's what makes it. It's kind of like what I talked about with the Simian Spirit Guide.
Right.
It allows to have some explosive draws and some things that people can't really prepare for. And sometimes you just turn 4 an Emrakul and lose, like me on camera.
Oh, okay.
So there are answers for this deck, and that's why I feel like it's not really needed to get banned yet. Mm-hmm. Ooh, predictions. I got a prediction.
Yeah.
I will be at every single Grand Prix in North America this year.
Okay. That's a lot of Grand Prix.
That is a lot of Grand with an asterisk.
Oh.
That if there's 2 Grand Prix in North America, I can't be in both.
Right. So I think they actually kind of fixed that. So there's no. I think this year the only real offender was when it was in LA and Charlotte the same weekend, the Martin weekend back in I believe it was May. I think that was the only real offender. But for the most part, I think next year the schedule, they've kind of been much better about dividing up the Grand Prix so they're far enough away.
Sure. That
realistically, people in North America will go to North American ones, Europeans will go to European ones, etc. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, Derek. Don't think people really went outside the box and were inbred deck building in Standard. And then Jabawaki's kind of broke it open, and while he was doing that, I kind of was doing it, but we were going at it a little bit differently. I like Goblin Lackeys here. GP Louisville is won by. Not by Miracles.
No, it's not won by Miracles.
Which is great, because we're not playing Miracles.
Okay. That's actually a really hard one. In Japan, at Grand Prix Chiba, last Legacy Grand Prix, there were 3 Miracles players in the top 8.
But the best deck won.
The best deck won. Come on.
Sneak and show! My deck! It won!
You're so happy.
Yamamoto's great. Yeah, of course. Of course it wins, because I didn't play it, but...
I will actually say that Miracles will win. I think Miracles is actually overdue for a win. Despite the fact that it's put up very, very good numbers.
Darkwater, what up?
Despite the fact that Miracles put up very, very good numbers, I think it's actually overdue for a win. Despite the fact that there is a lot of hate for it in Legacy.
Okay, I will agree with Andre here as well. He says, you will have a top 32, which is pretty good, because you're not playing as many as I am.
Right.
And he's got 1 for me. I'm going to mark it down and say I'm top 8ing 2 Grand Prix this year.
All right. We'll see how.
That is a goal, but that's really a prediction.
All right.
If you catch my drift. I'm not going to reach out and say a top 8 at a Pro Tour yet.
Okay.
But I will say that I will play at least, another prediction, is 2 of the remaining 3 Pro Tours. Because I'm missing out on Dublin.
Right.
So I will play the next... I guess I should say it this way. Rather, I will play at least 2 Pro Tours this year.
Okay.
Which, if I don't know what to do.
All right.
We'll never lose another match at a Grand Prix. That's a prediction that I'd love to come true.
Yeah, that is that's quite the long shot.
Yeah. I would say if I could go 1 Grand Prix without losing a match, I would cash that chip in immediately and then never have to worry about that again.
All right. I mean, $18 Grand Prix has never been done. Has never been done.
Gotcha.
We've had 17 ones, never an 18-0.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of people that have been like 9-0, so.
Yeah, 9-0 is doable. We've had a few 15-0s. I think 17-1 has been done once or twice. All right, so real quick, I guess we can look at this tweet since it's being brought up, and we'll probably
207 every Grand Prix. What?
I don't play that slow.
No, me.
I don't play that slow.
He'll maintain his gold status.
Oh my god.
Oh, Sean, what up?
Hey, how's it going, Sean? Okay, now I'm getting mocked.
Gold level pro.
Now I'm getting mocked, so I feel like we need to wrap this up. Let's just take a look at this tweet real quick, since
Pretty much the tweet was going over. Sam Stodd was talking about it. He's a game designer for Wizards.
Yep.
And pretty much tweeted out, like, hey, what's everybody's feelings on standard from 1 to 10? And pretty much every pro, I think the highest was like 4. I think there was like so many 1s, 2s, 3s. And the people that were saying like 10 were just trolling. Mm-hmm. And like we have everyone on here from Mike Segrist, Calcano, PV, Ben White, Patrick Sullivan. Yep. Like a lot of personalities and just platinum players like Huey Jensen, Sam Black. Like I could sit here and go down the line.
Right. But where do you stand on that? I guess that's more of what our viewers are looking to hear on here.
Poor Ed. I think that the current standard is at like a 5.
Okay.
So a little higher than the doom and gloom perspective as the pro's at now. But that's mainly because, like, I always find ways to get around what nonsense is going on in standard.
Okay.
Whereas, no offense to some of the pros, they're just so good at playing the game that they get lazy in the sense of actually thinking about their decks.
Trying to innovate.
Prior. Yeah.
Okay.
And so for me, I think like there's still room to grow. I think with the new set coming, there's going to obviously be a lot of change, hopefully.
Okay.
And I think it's just one of those times at the end of the year, people kind of need to get over the fact that like standards, a little beat.
Right.
Because it is. And I think one of the dampening parts about this is that they made the announcement that all the cards are sticking around for a little bit longer.
Right.
So it leads people to believe, like, oh my god, if this deck's really, overwhelming percentage of the meta, and now it's going to be around for this much longer, if there's not another good deck. So I would definitely like to see Gideon go.
Okay.
That card has beaten me way too many times. And it's funny because in the conception of, like, Gideon standard, I was playing Gideon and just raffling people with Gideon. So
all right. So first thing you're gonna say on the second show 2017, I'm going to say that Gideon will beat you in Legacy. You will lose to Death and Taxes, which do play Gideons in their sideboard.
Oh, I know. I played Death and Taxes at was it Grand Prix?
I think it was Worcester. I think was that where we were? Where you were
Yeah.
playing?
It was Worcester, and I got beat. And I actually played a Gideon versus Miracles, and it was awesome.
Yep. That's the biggest idea behind playing it. It's just very, very hard for Miracles to deal with.
Sure.
Short of being able to instant speed Terminus when Gideon's attacking, or Consul's Judgment, which is a 1-of to be able to exile it on. So
I like Andreas here. There will be a card that drains energy.
okay, That's interesting. That's
like
interesting.
a drain life. I like that. That's kind of cool. Bringing versus
Show and Tell.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
Dan's actually not playing Show and Tell.
Yeah, I'm not playing Show and Tell. For those of you that have ever watched me play Legacy, and you've probably seen me play Show and Tell, or the last recent tournament, I decided to switch gears a little bit. I am going to be playing the Delver of Secrets.
All right, I'm a fan.
And multiple other colors. Some may or may not be white. I'm just saying.
Okay.
So we're gonna be playing Delver. Yeah, we're getting in with Delver. Probably gonna be playing Ben Friedman's list. He is a masterful wizard when it comes to Legacy, and believes that the deck's still good, and I take his word for it. So I'm gonna try to get some games in. I think we're gonna be playing 4-color Delver, maybe 5. Who knows? Maybe I'll just go off the rails.
That seems a little brave.
Yeah, whatever. It's Delver. Delver with mentors. Bring mentors in.
What? You're going way off the rails.
Yeah, just cut the Delvers, bring in the mentors. Bang. Contain Priest is too scary. Yes. Goblin Lackey, you're right. You are definitely right. All right, well, that's going to kind of wrap it up.
Okay.
We went over a bunch of predictions.
Yep.
Hopefully, we gave a little bit of insight for everybody on the Grand Prix that happened this last weekend, as well as a preview for the SCG Players Championship.
Yep.
I was going to play a certain video, but our going out video will be done by none other than DNC.
All right.
And the cool thing about this is that the reason why their group name is DNC is because when they wrote it down, they actually forgot the A, and they just kept it.
I
Okay.
got a prediction.
All right, we got one prediction before we go into the video by our
Weekly
on-set
Ward,
manager.
season 2, next year for sure.
Season 2.
Season 2,
We're-
episode number 52.
All
right.
Should be
People of Kaladesh, whether you hail from distant fields or greenbelt towns or from our great city centers, this is your time. The Kaladesh Inventors Fair invites you, our best and brightest, to share your ingenuity with the world. As an official entrant, you may fuel your creativity with unrestricted ether access. Demonstrate that you can channel the ether into bold, new creations. Showcase your ideas, your inventions, your genius. In this time when anything is buildable, you can invent your